I've got a 5-year plan to fix the Arizona Cardinals.
You are Locked On Cardinals, your daily Arizona Cardinals podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome in, Locked On Cardinals. Alex Clancy here. It's Wednesday. Tomorrow we've got crossover Thursday with Corbin Smith of Locked On Seahawks to preview the Arizona Cardinals Seahawks matchup on Sunday at State Farm Stadium. Today I'm going to do something a little different. Thanks for making Locked On Cardinals your first listen each and every day, free and available on all platforms. You can check me out tomorrow on Locked On NFL Thursday with Tyler Rowland, where we talk national stories from Thursday Night Football. We'll touch on the trade deadline a bit and another topic that's sweeping the NFL from a national perspective. Today's episode of Locked On Cardinals, though, is brought to you by Prize Picks. Prize Picks is a daily fantasy made easy. Pick 2 to 5 players, and if they score more or less than their Prize Picks projections, then you can win up to 10 times your money on your entry. First-time users can receive a 100% instant deposit match up to $100 with promo code Locked On. That's prizepicks.com, promo code Locked On. Trade deadline come and gone. The Cardinals play the Seahawks on Sunday, the first of 3 games in a row against NFC West opponents. Seahawks in Week 9 at home, Rams in Week 10 on the road, and then San Francisco in Week 11, technically at home, but also technically in Mexico City. We're going to talk about all of it. Corbin Smith, Locked On Seahawks, one of my buddies. We're going to talk tomorrow about the game. Friday, I'm going to give my in-depth conversation about the Seattle Seahawks coming into town and how the Cardinals can beat them and hopefully put up more than 3 points after the 10-minute and 40-second mark on offense, like they were unable to do at Lumen Field a handful of weeks ago when the Cardinals lost 19-9 in a game they definitely should have won. I'm going to take this Wednesday and give my blueprint, my 5-year plan for the Arizona Cardinals and how they can change the trajectory of this team. And with the influx of uncertainty, finger-pointing, blame game playing, etc., I think that there's time to look at the future, even though I've said multiple times that the future is now. I mean, I'm not cable guying it Jim Carrey. Like, the future is now. The future has been the last 4 years with Kyler Murray and his rookie scale deal. That's over after this season. So what's the plan for the Cardinals moving forward? I've got 3 things that need to happen for the Cardinals' trajectory to change, pretty much with the possibility of being in perpetuity. But there is one thing before that that needs to be discussed, and one thing that needs to be let go of, and that's Steve Keim getting fired. It's not going to happen. It pains me to have to be the person to tell you this. It pains me to be the person to have to accept this. But Steve Keim is not going to get fired. If he didn't get fired after 2018, and he got an extension before this season started, it's just something that needs to be understood that Steve Keim is not going to get fired. Well, what about for how long? Steve Keim is not going to get fired, period. And going about our lives, discussing the Arizona Cardinals, with that understanding, although it's going to be more difficult to just accept and understand and move on from, it's going to give us some peace and less stress, acknowledging, even though we don't agree with it for the most part, that that's going to be a staple. Steve Keim is not going to get fired. My first part of our 3-part podcast here, the first thing that needs to happen for the Cardinals to change trajectory in the next 5 years, this is the easy one, needs to fire Kliff Kingsbury. It needs to happen. And there comes a stipulation with this, or a condition with this. If they make the playoffs this year, it's going to elongate it. Unless they make the playoffs and lose by, like, it happens in an unceremonious fashion like it did last year, where they were removed from the playoffs in an embarrassing and whimpering fashion. Could be an honorable mention for him to be fired this year, after this season. Kliff Kingsbury can no longer lead this team. Well, he's never been the leader of this team. He can no longer be a part of this organization if the Cardinals want to win. And I don't think that's harsh. And yes, Kyler Murray's to blame, at fault, at times. And yes, the players on the field are the one committing penalties. And Kyler Murray's the one committing turnovers. Greg Dortch committed the turnover on the muff punt last week. I get all of it. I understand all of it. And I also understand that he's been given talent to work with that most other head coaches would yearn for. And even though they've gone from 5 wins to 8 wins to 11 wins, a very good head coach probably would have taken the Cardinals at least deep into the playoffs last year. They wouldn't have fallen off the way that I did, regardless of if DeAndre Hopkins getting hurt or not. I don't know why he's still here. And again, this is not 100% on Kliff Kingsbury. And as well, when you're a head coach, you get the positivity and you get the blame when things don't go well. This isn't an original story. Step one, the betterment of the Arizona Cardinals for the next 5 years, fire Kliff Kingsbury at the end of the year if they don't make the playoffs. And if they do make the playoffs and lose embarrassingly, same thing. Cut the cord. I know that Michael Bidwell is going to have a bunch of egg on his face because Kliff Kingsbury's contract extension doesn't take place until 2023. He's going to get made fun of. Well, homework clause kind of did that to him initially. Even if Kyler Murray needs to be studying more film, you do that as a handshake deal on the side. You don't put that in the contract because that is a power move and that is dumb BS that has no place if you ever want to have a real relationship with your players, with your employees. It just shows ineptitude and a grandiose level of ridiculousness and elitism that has no place in the NFL. It has no place really anywhere from a boss to employee relationship, especially being the guy that you just are going to pay a whole bunch of money. You know what? Don't pay him then if you're uncertain about it. Trade him. There's a bunch of teams that would have loved to have Kyler Murray and would have put in a damn homework clause. Step one, if the Cardinals don't make the playoffs, fire Kliff Kingsbury. Step one on the beginning of the 5-year plan. What's step two? This is the fun one. This is the popcorn eating one. This is the one that will put asses in seats. This is the one that will really strike fear in opposing defenses, especially with a more competent person calling the plays and leading this team. What is it? That's what we call a tease here in the business, ladies and gentlemen. Alex Clancy, Locked On Cardinals. I'm going to talk about it next. Your team every day first. Simply Safe. If you've thought about securing your home with home security but have been putting it off, you'll want to listen up. Right now, Locked On Cardinals listeners can order the number one rated Simply Safe home security system for 50% off. This is their biggest offer of the year, and you won't want to miss it. Here's why I love it. There are a couple things that Simply Safe does that other security companies, security system companies don't. If your cat is walking around at night, it's not going to trigger the motion sensors. Okay? It's not going to be like, oh no, there's somebody infiltrating your perimeter when it's, Binky the cat. Okay? Also, in an emergency, 24/7 professional monitoring agents use Fast Protect technology exclusively from Simply Safe to capture critical evidence and verify the threat is real so you can get priority police response. It's a whole security system with advanced sensors for every room, windows, and door. Okay, it's got HD security cameras for inside and out and the smarter ways to detect motion that alert you only when a threat is real, not Binky the cat. Okay, and even hazard sensors that detect fires, floods, and other threats to your home. 24/7 professional monitoring service costs less than $1 a day, less than half the price of ADT's traditional professionally installed system. With the top-rated Simply Safe app, stay in complete control of your system anytime, anywhere. Arm or disarm, unlock for a guest, access your cameras, or adjust system settings. Don't miss your chance to save big on the only security system I recommend. Get 50% off at any new Simply Safe system at simplysafe.com/lockedon today. This is their biggest discount this year, so don't wait. That's simplysafe.com/lockedonnfl. simplysafe.com/lockedonnfl. There's no safe like Simply Safe. My 5-year plan to changing the trajectory of the Arizona Cardinals. Step one, if the Cardinals don't make the playoffs this year, relieve Kliff Kingsbury of his duties. If they do make the playoffs this year and lose a game they should have won, lose a game because they didn't have many timeouts towards the tail end of the game, things like that, remove Kliff Kingsbury from his post and move the hell on. Step one. Step two, and this is the fun one. Alex Clancy, Locked On Cardinals. Thanks for making Locked On Cardinals your first listen each and every day, free and available on all platforms. For your second listen, check out Locked On Sports Today. From the games that matter the most to the biggest stories in sports, go behind the scoreboard and behind the scenes with local experts and insights only Locked On can provide. Locked On Sports Today, available on this app, YouTube, and wherever you get your podcast. Number two, step two in the 5-step plan to change the Arizona Cardinals trajectory. Re-sign Hollywood Brown to extension, extend DeAndre Hopkins, and restructure and extend. However you can keep these two on this roster for the next handful of years, you do it. This isn't an either or. This is not an either or. This is not an either or. You do not trade a first-round pick for Hollywood Brown if you're not going to extend him. You don't trade for DeAndre Hopkins and extend him for a 2-year contract extension after he joined on top of his contract with Houston. There's an out at the end of the season. You do not let DeAndre Hopkins walk. You pay him. Look at what he's done through the first 2 weeks of him being back. What is it? 22 catches for almost 300 yards receiving. You do not let DeAndre Hopkins wear another uniform for the next 4 or 5 years. Oh, but he's 30 or 31. He's never relied on his speed to be successful. He's never been the fastest guy. He'll probably be the first one to tell you that. His hands, his catch radius, his ability to catch contested balls is something that is marveled. He will be a Hall of Famer. You do not let him walk. So, step 2 of my 5-year plan. Have the Arizona Cardinals extend Hollywood Brown, restructure and re-sign, and give a little boost to DeAndre Hopkins. You keep number 10 and number 2 in Arizona Cardinals uniforms forever. You do it. Because Kyler Murray, DeAndre Hopkins, Hollywood Brown, at least for the next couple years, and I'm sure Zach Ertz will retire an Arizona Cardinal except for a day where he's probably going to retire a Philadelphia Eagle and go into the Hall of Fame, you'd think, or, he's going to retire a Philadelphia Eagle, you'd think. He'll sign that one-day contract that's become so, prevalent over the landscape of sports over the last 10 years or so. Hollywood Brown, DeAndre Hopkins remain Arizona Cardinals. You figure it out cap-wise. You figure it out. And they remain the top 2 targets for Kyler Murray for the next 5 years. That's number 2. And let me explain to you why this is so important. Even if, say, the Cardinals fire Kliff Kingsbury at the end of the year and they hire a defensive-minded head coach, that's fine. I'd almost rather that. And you bring in up-and-coming or hot OC, somebody that you can trust to call plays. Up-and-coming, let me remove that. I don't even know why I said that. An established play caller, an offensive mastermind, and you bring in a leader to lead this team from the head coaching position. I don't think the Cardinals have to hire an offensive-minded head coach. They need to hire a leader. They need to hire stability. They need to hire, say what you want about Dan Campbell. Maybe he's not the greatest example because they've lost a bunch of games and the defense has been bad, but players play for him. He's a leader. Mike Vrabel is a leader. Sure, he has his shortcomings. Mike Vrabel is a leader of that organization. The Cardinals have had a void in that. Now, Bruce Arians, interesting case. Bruce Arians, offensive mastermind, great interview, great human being. I was lucky enough to interview him a handful of times and talk to him great human being. Best leader? Don't know. Him and Todd Bowles together were perfect. They were perfect. They were perfect. But leadership-wise, we don't know. I mean, it made you question after the start of the 2016 season when they lose at home against New England. After that NFC Championship run, they lose at home against New England against Jimmy Garoppolo. Chandler Catanzaro misses a field goal at the end of the game. And then Bruce Arians was quoted as saying, paraphrasing here, they could not overcome that loss throughout the entirety of the season. That's not great leadership. Bruce Arians, great person, did a lot for this organization in his 3 years as head coach, 10 wins every year plus. But Wasn't great. Like leadership-wise, after that in 2016, kind of makes you question it. Now, DeAndre Hopkins and Hollywood Brown need to remain Arizona Cardinals for the next 5 years. Figure it out. That's part two. Part one, if the Cardinals don't make the playoffs this year, fire Kliff Kingsbury. Part two, regardless of if the Cardinals make the playoffs or not, regardless of if the Cardinals win 6 games this year or not, and you see Hollywood Brown and DeAndre Hopkins on the field sparingly together, you extend Hollywood Brown, you re-sign DeAndre Hopkins, you do not let either of them leave the building. They remain Arizona Cardinals wearing number 10 and number 2 respectively, and they are the top 2 targets for Kyler Murray for the next 5 years. Step 2 of my 5-year plan. Step 3 is coming up next. First, prize picks. Okay? Got heated there. I like it. Prize picks is daily fantasy made easy. Okay? I love prize picks. All you do is download the prize picks app or go to prizepicks.com. And you pick 2 to 5 players. And if they'll go over or they'll score more or less than the prize picks projections, you go up to 10 times your money on any entry. No competing against other players. It's just you versus the projections available. Prize Picks offers projections on any sport you watch, includes NFL, NBA, Major League Baseball, and the World Series, NHL, PGA, etc., college basketball, men's and women's, WNBA, esports. They've got it all over there. Entries can be made in 60 seconds or less. It's that easy. Safe and fast withdrawals, and currently operational in 30 states and Canada. Download the Prize Picks app or go to prizepicks.com to sign up and play daily fantasy sports. First-time users can receive a 100% deposit match up to $100 with promo code Locked On. If you deposit $100, Prize Picks will give you $100. If you deposit $50, Prize Picks will give you $50. Don't forget to enter promo code Locked On and sign up for an instant deposit match up to $100. My 5-year plan for changing the Arizona Cardinals. Alex Clancy, Locked On Cardinals. Thank you for making Locked On Cardinals your first listen each and every day, free and available on all platforms. You can check me out tomorrow on Locked On NFL, the national show with Tyler Rowland from Locked On Titans. We're going to talk national stories, Thursday night football, probably a little trade deadline and another story. We have a lot of fun over there, he and I do. And then you can check me out halftime on Sunday of the Cardinals game on Twitter Spaces and YouTube. If you don't have a Twitter account, go to Twitter. Make an account on, with a junk email or something. Search at Clancy's Corner, ClancyScorner. It's on the screen right now if you're watching on YouTube. And follow. Don't follow. I'm not doing this for the follows. Just set an alarm at halftime. Go check it out. You can hear me blabber on, and we like to have a good conversation. And you can join me here on YouTube. If you don't follow the YouTube channel yet, search YouTube or search Locked On Cardinals on YouTube. Turn the notifications on. Hit the subscribe button, and you'll be able to hang with me at halftime and post-game immediately following what's hoping to be an Arizona Cardinals win against the Seattle Seahawks at State Farm Stadium on Sunday afternoon. Fire Kliff Kingsbury if the Cardinals don't make the playoffs. Re-sign DeAndre Hopkins. Extend Hollywood Brown. Those are the 2 buckets that are 66.6% repeating of my 5-year plan to change the Arizona Cardinals, to fix the Arizona Cardinals. And number 3, this is so important. This is so important. This is so important. Steve Keim needs to draft offensive linemen, defensive linemen, and cornerbacks in the top picks of the draft for the next 5 years. Now, when we look 3 or 4 years from now, things change, roster change. At least starting in 2023 and 2024, offensive linemen, defensive linemen, edge rushers, and corners. Those are the 4 options. On his big board, he shouldn't have any wide receivers, shouldn't have any running backs, shouldn't have any safeties. Offensive line, edge rush, interior defensive line, cornerback. Those are the 4. Should draft 1 of each in the first 4 rounds of next season. 1 of each. 2 edge rushers. I don't care. The Cardinals need impact position players drafted in the first 2 or 3 rounds of every draft until they can fill out this roster. That is so important. That is so important. Oh, man. Pro Football Focus way too early draft had the Cardinals taking Bijan Robinson, running back out of Texas, in the first round. I think it was 14 or 15, wherever they had the Cardinals slated a month ago. danger. Like, he's going to be the best running back coming out of the draft. The Cardinals have not eaten their vegetables. The Cardinals still have not eaten their vegetables. The Cardinals have still not eaten their vegetables. They can't have dessert yet. They can't eat what they want. They can't draft skill position players when they haven't eaten their vegetables. They haven't drafted an offensive lineman in the first 2 rounds since DJ Humphries in 2015. 7 years. 7 years. And if you extend Kyler Murray, a homework clause is going to protect you. Offensive lineman will. Offensive lineman will. Not a homework clause, Michael Bidwell. So and I mentioned this in the first segment, you just gotta, we just have to accept that Steve Keim is not going to get fired. And he needs to draft players that will build out this roster for inexpensive contracts that will allow the Cardinals to have Kyler Murray and DeAndre Hopkins and Hollywood Brown and Byron Murphy and Zach Allen and Budda Baker when he's going to want a contract in 2 years, or when he's going to get a contract in 2 years. Got to stay ahead of the curve here, baby. My 5-year plan to fix the Arizona Cardinals. Fire Kliff Kingsbury at the end of the year if they don't make the playoffs. Extend Hollywood Brown and re-sign and restructure DeAndre Hopkins' contract. Draft positions of need. Offensive line, edge rusher, interior defensive line, corner for the next 3 years in the first 3 rounds. It's easy, right? And Cardinals win a Super Bowl. Alex Clancy, Locked On Cardinals, Thursday crossover with Corbin Smith of Locked On Seahawks. I'll talk to you tomorrow.